Hey chat, this is the Meme Team podcast where we talk about the logic behind virality because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture. And this podcast decodes both. And this week I am back after a week-long vacation and I was pretty much off the grid and have no idea what has been happening. I no clue. I haven't scrolled even any kinds of personal social media feeds. I don't know what's going on.
Wow. What's
been
that like?
blissfully I know I've been blissfully unaware of everything. Just getting bits and pieces here and there. So so this week I am counting on Sonia to get me back up to speed.
Yeah. So we thought we'd try something new and kind of tell you tidbits on a bunch of little marketing stories that happened this past week and see what Amanda thinks and then, give you our analysis on the marketing topics.
Yeah, this is going to be an episode about an idiot, me, just sounding off her opinions real time because we don't get enough of that in the media, right?
I mean, that's how you know it's a real podcast now, folks.
That's true. That's how you know.
Exactly.
In fact, this episode should be 4 hours long, I think.
Oh my God. One day.
One day. It's not. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, no. Well, cool. Okay, let's get started. I wanted to talk about Zoran Mamdani's latest viral video. He's basically, saying like, look, things have changed after the election. Now it's really hard to create videos like we used to when nobody knew who I was. And it's this great video of New Yorkers just coming up to him and wanting to take photos. And like, you can see the genuine excitement. I think that's what stood out the most to me was the fact that I think it was 3 to 4 different people told him, hey, I voted for you. And one of the guys was so excited. He's like, oh my God, this is the first time that I've ever voted for somebody that won, which goes to show like just how like elections don't really capture a lot of that excitement anymore. Obviously, the Democrats have had a lack of excitement for a while now. So the fact that they have, Mamdani that's, running, though some of the officials haven't endorsed him, which is a whole separate thing. But the point is there's this whole idea that you want to be able to capture that excitement and like, what do you do with that? And I think that this was one of the best ways to show that very authentically, because you can tell that they're not even looking for that. They're not there trying to like create a political moment or even try to like meet new people. He's done separate events or, videos where that's the whole point of the video is to meet people. And I wanted to counter that with the latest drop from Andrew Cuomo, who did create one of those videos and has very clearly chosen people that have agreed to be on camera, but it looks very staged. And so for people that see both of them, I think it's a very stark contrast between actual genuine excitement that you cannot buy and you cannot create unless it's an actual, film production or TV production versus one where it's like you're asking people to act as if they care about you or like what you're doing or what you're saying. So I made Amanda watch it because I'm like, you have to watch this to like see the difference. So I definitely want to get her takes, but that was just kind of my take.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the Mamdani video was a really good way to flex on all their truly organic excitement, like to really kind of, I don't want to use the word capitalize. It seems like wrong, right? But to really like leverage. How about that?
Leverage. That's a great word.
Yeah, to leverage the enthusiasm, excitement, like what is actually happening on the streets when he walks through. Like it's cool to see that, and it does look real, right? And then the Cuomo video, I couldn't even finish. I watched it at 1.5x speed, and I still couldn't quite finish it because it was painful to watch.
Yeah.
Like it's basically just him complaining and getting people to agree with him for a few minutes, and then heavily staged and edited, and like it really is just kind of night and day, right? Where the Cuomo video is something that's clearly done by committee.
Yeah,
it is done. Sure,
it's
like
done
very
by
much
his handlers, which is the like very obvious thing, right?
Yeah.
The handlers are the ones going to find the people like, hey, do you want to like meet Andrew Cuomo? Will you appear in the video? That did not happen at all in Mamdani's video, right? Like I think that was what was authentic about it, right? It's like you have people literally walking up to him. One of my favorite bits was like the lady where he's like, wait, I think she's coming. No, maybe not. oh no, there she is. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and obviously they have to get that sign off in the end. But it was all just, genuine interactions from like walking on the street,
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, of course, for all those appearances, I'm sure they got the release form signed, but it was like after the fact. It was they got the interaction and they're like, hey, by the way, can you sign this? We're using it for this thing. Like I'm sure they did all that.
Yeah.
The Cuomo video just very much reeks of that corporate CEO who's, like, hey, we need a viral video. We need to look good, really get our message across, really rally the people. Like I need a message. How long should this video be?
Yeah.
2 minutes. Let's do it. Let's make me look good. It looked like that. Yeah. Painful.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me of something else that recently happened with the Democrats. I'm not here to rag on the Democrats. That's not the thing here. I think what is a change that I would like to see happen that the Mamdani campaign is doing really well is that they are creating content in the medium that they want their target audience or target voter to be. So they've started a new channel where they have, policy breakdowns and tell you like the real news stories or like what the Democrats are doing and all that. They've launched a new channel on YouTube in order to try to engage with the younger folks. So on the one hand, they are trying to create that native content, but they're not really getting that many views. And I think part of it is because they're just kind of, making it more of a news show than like a YouTube short or like a YouTube like video content campaign. And that's completely different things, right? I mean, let's be real. A lot of young people aren't watching news channels, and they're also not watching content that looks like the news. A lot of people are, getting news from social media, from TikTok, from YouTube. Quibble as you may, whether that's the correct way or appropriate way for people to be getting their news, given how much misinformation there is out there, that's not the point here. The point is, if people are getting their news sources in that way or trying to digest it in that way, then you who are trying to give, facts have to be creating content in the way that is suitable for them.
Yeah, you got to meet them where they are.
Exactly.
I mean, I will say, like, I definitely am alarmed when friends of mine send me a news story via TikTok, which AKA is like a random TikTok influencer breaking down the news. And sometimes it'll be a topic that I happen to know about. And I'm like, dude, like, this is like 30% incredibly wrong. Like, is this seriously how you get your news? Like, yes, I actually do think it's very alarming. But to your point, that is besides the point. You had to figure out how to meet people where they are, where they're already paying attention. And you know what? Like, then find a way to do it with integrity. Don't do the 30% misleading wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. So those are just things that I hope that more politicians are looking to as a way to create more of that viral, genuine, authentic content that people are looking for. And Mamdani is kind of providing the case study for that. And if you're not trying to learn from that, then you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, totally
awesome.
True.
So next story, I want to talk about the Oasis tour that's starting up in Manchester, where they're from. And they had this like really cool moment, or like a viral moment, where they have Liam Gallagher, the singer of Oasis, is doing the voice on the tram in Manchester. So you have like, people that are arriving to go to the concert are, taking the tram and then, surprised that they're hearing Liam Gallagher's voice. So I thought it was just like a real cool way for like Oasis, who has made being from Manchester as like a huge part of their brand, and turning it into, I think both marketing for Oasis, the band, and like the tour and the concert and all, but also for the city of Manchester, where they're from, and to kind of give them that viral moment and, attention that Manchester usually doesn't get, as being, a secondary city to London, say. I don't know how many more, cities or, artists are going to be able to like recreate that, but I wouldn't be surprised if, at least some of the hometowns, of the artists, like whenever they're there, they start doing that. I do remember like for, Taylor Swift's, Eras tour, they, some of like they started decorating the venues a little bit more to kind of go with like the tour itself, which I thought was really cool because that usually doesn't happen aside from like inside. Let's see how many more public transportation systems will start using them as like announcements. So.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's like I like the hometown marketing thing, and I like that idea of a band, music artist doing out of home advertising.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I think it's also one of those things like where it just really suits them because, they've made being from Manchester is like such a huge part of their brand that it's very like on the nose, I think, right? Like Noel Gallagher, the other brother, you often see him at like Manchester City games. Wonderwall is like one of the stadium anthems that they play for each of the games. So they're very embedded in like the local culture, which is really cool. But one other thing here is I think it's also a neat way for like public transportation to showcase that you can easily get from, anywhere to the venue. Because I've seen a couple of viral moments at like the Beyonce concert. And then most recently, oh my God, it just went viral. Oh, Coldplay. Coldplay was playing in Toronto and they thanked like at the concert, they thanked the people saying like, oh, I'm glad you guys were able to make it out to this random stadium because the stadium is like very outside the city and it's very hard to get to. And there's no like public transportation that gets there. So people were like calling it out that like, oh, damn, like Coldplay's calling them out, for, making it hard for like, their audience to get there. And then I remember for the Beyonce concert, what stood out was, that there was like, like the photos of people walking to the stadium because the line of the Ubers to get there was like so long. There's going to be no way to like that they were going to get there on time. So they all had to like walk there, which, if you remember, they're wearing like fancy outfits and like heels and stuff. So I think it's a cool way for like public transportation to be like, see, this is what you need, public transportation.
Yeah. I like that angle too. Yeah, that's fun. And then, it would be interesting to see if, I guess I wouldn't know or would have to do deeper research here, but I guess I would be curious if any of that recording, Liam Gallagher's recording, if any of it is Oasis show specific. Because I wonder if it's like, if his voice on the public transportation is going to be used longer, like after the tour ends.
I do,
the
yeah.
concert ends.
I wonder about that.
Yeah, it would be fun if it's just there for a while.
That would be pretty cool. It just stays, I mean, you have it there. Why wouldn't you just like, keep doing it? But yeah, I guess if it ties into the Oasis concert, then that wouldn't make as much sense.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So the next one is McDonald's Canada has a new out-of-home campaign with like billboards of the 2025 Calgary Stampede and are using it as a way to kind of promote all the things that you get at McDonald's, right? So it's a pretty cool campaign where it's kind of putting the Western iconography on clothing. So you see here the shirt with like the fries, so it looks like the packaging.
Or like a shirt with fringe. Right?
Yeah, the fringe.
The fringe looks like fries.
Yeah, the fringe
so
looks
cute.
like fries. Yeah. You have the hat that has like the colors of what like the burger is, and you have one where it's like a shirt and like the pants is like and with like a belt looks like one of the McDonald's ice creams. So I thought those are like really cool ways to kind of showcase like food and like the vendors that are sourcing all the ingredients that go into all the food.
Yeah, it's so cute. I can totally imagine how fun and delightful that must have been to execute on a creative standpoint.
Yeah,
it's really
definitely.
cute.
I wonder if they're actually selling this merchandise because I mean, the hat is pretty cool. I don't know about the shirt because it's like red and yellow. But I think some people would wear it. because it kind of has really cool, it's a really cool aesthetic and like really cool vibes. So it was cool to kind of like see that. It also reminds me that McDonald's has previously done really cool adverts in magazines that kind of show the fries in a like really unique way, or like the hamburgers. So it really fits in with, you know, the aesthetic that like McDonald's has kind of created for itself in that way to kind of elevate the brand a little bit more. And so it's not seen as just I don't know, like as just fast food. Like obviously it is, but I feel like McDonald's really tries to elevate the brand in order to you know, get out there.
Totally. A couple things I want to call out. I remember years ago, it was on the McDonald's Canada or YouTube channel that they created a video about how the chicken nuggets are made. I think probably most people listening to this will remember that for years we were kind of taught / we assumed that the chicken was like, is it even chicken? Like what parts are they using? Like what's going in this? But I remember this McDonald's Canada YouTube channel was showing the way it's made. Like, yes, it is chicken, and yes, it is ground up. It's ground up, and it is, you know, pushed through a sieve to remove like the cartilage, any kinds of bones that might get through. That's a normal thing that could happen. And then they are shaped into those patterns, to those molds that we know, like the boot and all the other shapes. And it very much showed beginning to end, like this is how this is made. Yes, this is why this looks like pink slime, because it is chicken that's ground up. And that's what raw chicken ground up looks like. Right? Anybody who buys ground meat at the grocery, we all know it's pink. That's what it looks like. So I thought that was really cool. But then I'm calling that out because I just looked up this Taxi article. I'll just read this like short excerpt here. The visuals are a tribute to the farmers and ranchers who grow and raise the ingredients behind every cone, fry, and burger. The fast food giant is doubling down on its local sourcing messaging, spotlighting the Canadian beef, dairy, and potatoes that power its menu. So that's really cool to see, like the way that they are spotlighting the local angle, like, hey, we really do make this food. It is real food, you know?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because obviously, I mean, I would say most fast food restaurants have that stereotype that they kind of have to fight, right? Or it's like, oh, is it like real? I think that's one of the things that In-N-Out has been doing, I think, recently, where it's like, they're always saying that their fries are never frozen, right? And so that's why the fries taste different. They don't taste like McDonald's, they don't taste like Burger King because they're not frozen, you know? So I think that they're using it to their advantage to say like, yeah, you know, if you wanted the fries to taste like McDonald's, then like we would have to freeze them. Do you want your food to be frozen? And then a lot of people would, you know, answer no, actually I don't. Then that's just what they're going to taste like, you know? So it's a really good way to kind of counteract those like negative narratives, or what could be potentially a negative narrative, right? Where it's like most of the complaints that I hear about In-N-Out is that the fries don't taste good, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is a way to kind of, you know, turn it on its head where it's like, well, you know, this is for a reason, and it's because we want to maintain the freshness of the potatoes. So I think that like works really well.
I'd like to comment on how to make fries. This is important to me.
Yeah.
So friends, I went to culinary school years ago, so I'm an expert. No, I'm not an expert. No. It's just that I do know a little bit, and so I feel like my opinion on this is relevant.
We got the bear in the house.
So one, on In-N-Out fries, yeah, it has a reputation for being crappy fries, and it is because most fries, or the classic French fry, is fried twice. It's fried first at a lower temperature to, you know, basically cook or soften the potato, and then it's fried again at a higher temperature to make them crispy. That's traditionally how fries are made. However, In-N-Out fries are only fried once, and so that's why they're just soft. And I personally like soft fries.
I like soft fries.
Yeah, and I know that makes us
I'm
weird.
born and raised in California.
Totally,
so.
right? Difference of opinion, but that is the reason.
Yeah.
And by the way, on frozen fries, I think some people do probably like frozen fries. They just don't know it, because the good thing about frying frozen fries is that you're starting from fries that are an equal temperature all around. So it'll cook more evenly. So there is a reason to cook frozen fries.
Yeah. I also heard that you can ask for them to double fry your fries at In-N-Out. You just have to ask for specific, like off the menu. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, you say well done.
There you go. You just say well done fries. So if you really want them to be double fried, you can do that.
You could. Yeah.
Listen to California natives for tips on how to get better In-N-Out burgers.
And also order some animal style fries. Delicious.
You have to try those, at some point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. The next story I want to talk about is Nike launching a new publication on Substack called In the Margins, dedicated to new sports writing. And I think this demonstrates how established brands can leverage new emerging platforms. I know for a lot of us in the startup world, Substack is old now, right? They've been around since like 2018. So, it's been a while, but there's a lot of publications, especially on the corporate side, that haven't heard about Substack or, haven't used it or still kind of think about it as like a new platform. And they're still going back and forth on whether it's worth starting a publication on Substack or, some of the other options available, whether that's, creating on like MailChimp or, within HubSpot, all the other like older brands that have been around, for a little bit longer. So I think it's fair to say that Nike is probably going to have a little bit of like first mover advantage here based on the fact that they haven't, been on Substack before. Substack is probably, greasing the wheel a little bit for them, right? Where it's like creating customizations for them for their audience or for, how they're, publishing things. So I think that that's one of those things to like think about when you are considering like moving to like a newer platform that probably isn't as well established as, some of the older ones, is that having those like personalizations and like customizations can probably be more beneficial than like, trying to like just build out either your own thing or use one of those older ones.
Yeah, I think this is super fascinating. Something I advise people on, like new creators or, people who are heading up content for other brands, is to think a little bit outside the box when it comes to social media, and to not even think of it as social media, but think of it as what are my top of funnel discovery platforms. And I say discovery platform because I'm referring to any platform where you can fathomably get discovered, one of which is Substack, right? I mean, I think, I'm sure it's debatable. You can call Substack a social media platform. You can call it a media platform, a blogging platform, whatever. But it is a discovery platform, right? There's some kind of algorithm. You get mentioned with other like publications. So it's a place where you can get discovered. And I think thinking about your content or your overall organic marketing strategy as how do you show up in the places where you can get discovered, Substack is one great example of this. I'm excited to see a major brand join one of these types of platforms because I'm very curious to see, how it goes for them. Like, or just, I would also be curious to see how this elevates Substack as a brand. Obviously Nike is massive, but now more people are going to know what Substack is. And maybe the last thing I'll say here is, I think what's also interesting is the life or the age of startups here. Because I feel like for, a lot of us who work in tech or who are kind of deep in marketing, we've all known Substack for years. But I feel like in general, it's for startups, you don't really become, I mean, obviously there are exceptions. I'm just saying in general, it's like you don't really become a household name until you're like 8 to 10 years in, or like even when you're 8 years old, people still call you a fad. Like how Substack, that's like 8 years ago. It's not really a household name, right? Yeah. It's very popular, obviously. Back when I worked at Fitbit, it was year 8 that people were like, I think this might be a fad. And you know what? It was, but at the time, it was,
well, but
at the time we had like,
itself, yes, but not what it pioneered, right? Because people still wear Apple Watches, Aura rings.
Totally right. And at the time of like 8 years in, it was like, Fitbit had something like 90% or 95% even market share of all athletic device thingies, so it was a massive brand. And I'm just kind of calling out like how I think it's just really interesting.
No,
how
definitely.
You could be 8 years in and it's still like, wait, that's an old company, but also it's very much not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that kind of like harkens back to what we talked about with how slow moving the corporate world is, right? Those of us in tech, like part of the reason why you're in tech is because you kind of have that early adopter mentality. So you kind of try new things early. The downside to that is like you might have tried it. I mean, I signed up for Substack when it first came out. Nathan worked there, but it was never a thing that I like focused on. So it never really went anywhere for me. But now that it's like more established and that people are finding out more and more about it, is a good way to kind of revisit that, right? And I think that's the thing with a lot of these startups. It's like if you tried it out like in the beginning, it didn't like work. At some point, it's good to try it again, to see kind of where you are then, especially because now maybe your audience has moved there and is open to, signing up for newsletters and, or using, the social side of Substack, right? So that people kind of, use their platform more in ways that go beyond just being a like publication platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super excited to see where this goes. And I'm weird because I'm not really a big sports fan, but I love sports journalism and sports writing. So I think I might subscribe just because I like reading about sports. That's weird.
Yeah. I like reading about sports. I don't like watching sports. That's funny.
I know that's like so dumb. It's so ridiculous.
I think the writing is the through line, right? That's what.
Like, what a nerdy thing to say. Like, are you into basketball? Not really, but I like the content about it.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. The last thing I want to talk about are viral memes specifically here on Twitter, and how brands can kind of leverage them in order to get the right sort of attention instead of, the wrong sort of attention. So I'm sure most everybody has seen it because it's one of the first tweets to ever reach 1 billion views. And that's the tweet about, tell us about your lore. The one I want to point out here is Penguin. They said, when we first started publishing paperbacks in 1935, the color of the cover corresponded to the book's genre. They fit what the meme was about, and they made it so interesting that people ended up, liking it, and it ended up going viral for Penguin, which, is not a guarantee for a lot of these, memes. I think, we've seen, those jokes that like, oh, once like established brands start to like, jump into like these memes, then like the joke is over. So I think what really worked well here is the fact that they did talk about something that was like kind of obscure, right? Like I'm a fan of, Penguin and books and stuff, but I didn't know that this was a thing, right?
No, I had no idea. Super obscure and funny because as you're talking about this, I pulled up the tweet, and as I was reading it, I was thinking like, wait, what are the colors? And then I scroll down and you have the top reply where you ask, what are the colors? And I will read them. The colors were orange for fiction, dark blue for biography, green for crime, red for drama/plays, purple for essays, dark red for travel adventure, and gray for world affairs. That's so fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah. One thing I will say, though, is it took them a whole day to respond to that tweet. And I'm like, how did you not have this ready? How did you not know?
Right. I feel like it's the most obvious question.
Yeah. And I asked pretty early on, if I'm looking at them now and they're at like 120,000 likes. Like I asked this when they were like at 2,000. So like, I don't know. Part of it is maybe they're like, oh, it's not going to get enough views. Like who cares? But this is one of those things where it's like, if you're kind of jumping on a meme, you have to be ready to respond to things, right? Because that's what'll get you more views.
You're exactly right. That is important. I mean, we're kind of teasing them about this, but. And who knows, maybe it's red for drama/plays, dark red for travel adventure. What if they were debating dark red versus maroon? Like, right? Like that could have been it. I was like, legal said actually it's in the crimson family, therefore dark red.
Oh my gosh, the cardinal, right?
Cardinal. No, but I mean, you're right though. Arguably, this is putting even more pressure on social teams because then it's like be prepared for every angle, But in this particular case, it's not like you don't need to have like a 10-point document for every tweet that you put out. That's like a reactionary, document that is in service to any potential replies. But it is good to know, like, to create maybe a short list for yourself of what are some of the obvious answers? Or what are some of the obvious questions and how can we answer them correctly?
I think, though, this also shows that their own people probably didn't know the colors and had to go do the research on like what it is.
Maybe,
maybe, sure. Maybe, ChatGPT could have answered it like, really, really fast. I, thought because somebody answered me below and I'm like, oh, maybe it's one of those things that I should have done and put like, here are the colors, by the way. But at the time I was just like, but what are the colors? Like, this is actually interesting. Tell me what it is,
Yeah.
So I think it was like a win overall because obviously, they went viral with it as well. But yeah, one of those things to also keep in mind that if you are kind of creating those tweets, you have to be able to like respond to the ones that in order to help you also continue the momentum going.
Yeah, totally. And this really like hits like all the viral kind of like tickles all the viral spots, like it's broadly applicable. There's a sense of mystery. It's a fact, like it really hits all the like points of curiosity, and it's also like it's very broad. It's like all age appropriate, like for at all levels and all writing sensibilities, right? You don't have to be a nerd to appreciate it. It's just, do you know what a book is? Here's a cool fact. I think it's super cool.
Yeah. People still know books. One thing though is I do wonder if this might cause them to like bring them back, like create versions of them that have these like colors tied into it to like reference back to this tweet, and maybe 120,000 people will remember that and then buy books.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm thinking back to my colleague's first book, Rand Fishkin, his book Lost and Found Her. It was published by Penguin Random House, and his cover is dark blue. Dark blue means biography. It's like autobiographical. I doubt that was intentional.
Yeah.
But it is fun to see that like, oh, that kind of held true for that. That's cool.
Yeah. And then the second one I wanted to talk about is Gmail tweeted out a pretty like bland tweet. I think it's bland. It says, "It's a great day to send email with a little sun." And then Buffalo Wild Wings quote tweeted and said, "Fuck that. Come get bottomless apps." Which one do you think went viral?
That's really funny.
Yeah. So I had multiple people send that to me. I was like, hey, you should talk about this on, the podcast, because it's like one of those things of like, it just kind of crossed over into like the broader like audience, right? Where it's like you have Gmail, I don't know. I'm sure it's like one of those like tweets that like you think about like, oh, we should just post about, emailing. Yay. But then you have, another brand that kind of like jumps on it and like takes over, right? Because they came up with something funnier and like more appealing than like sending the email,
Yeah, totally.
So good for Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, good for them. I think the dunk here too isn't, I mean, one, like when it's a massive brand like Google, it's hard to feel sorry for them, right?
Punch up, but always punch up.
Yeah, but also like the other thing too is Buffalo Wild Wings wasn't saying, hey, Gmail sucks, right? It was just in general email, right? Like, no, fuck that. Don't look at your email. Like, where anyone can get on board with that sort of thing. So that's why the punching up angle worked, right? Because it wasn't mean spirited.
Yeah.
It was still like pro fun, pro the people.
Yeah. It was definitely like, like it's summer, like everybody just wants to, stop working. I think it was like the week after, 4th of July. I think the main thing is just go out and have some fun. Like, stop trying to like make it all serious. I think it's like one of those like moments of like levity. And it certainly came across that way. So that's why it, also went viral, I think.
Yeah. And you know what? You could have the best of both worlds, because I'm sure most of us would love nothing more than to eat chicken wings while scrolling email.
Yeah.
The most disgusting combination of activities.
I was like, you have to like make sure you're like eating them right. It has to be like the nuggets and not like the
so
wings,
gross. No. You got to own it. Just get that sauce all over your phone. Too bad.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, cool. That's it on marketing stories.
Love it.
Did you learn anything, Amanda?
I did. I felt brought up to speed. It was fun. I appreciate you bringing all that up. And
yeah.
Hopefully people had fun too.
So a couple of takeaways. We're gonna do it a little bit different since so many of them kind of like fit into the other things. But one of the huge ones for me is that authenticity isn't just a buzzword anymore. As Mamdani's campaign showed, as the Oasis tram announcements, also Nike publishing on Substack. I think those are all kind of ways of like trying to get directly in front of like your consumer in like new and interesting ways that kind of delight and are outside of the norm. And that's why they're, coming across as authentic. People just are able to see more and more, behind the facade. And I think they just kind of want to have like those like authentic human moments, especially as AI kind of becomes more of a thing. And then viral moments aren't going to be manufactured. Penguin here just kind of like jumping in on like the meme, like, hey, let's, talk about this. I don't think that would have been a thing that they have to like go through like legal with, the higher ups to like come up with that tweet, Buffalo Wings probably had to just because they said the F word. But I think it definitely shows that like there's still, the possibility of going viral. You just kind of have to have like, funny moments that people relate to. The first mover advantage still matters. That we're seeing that with Nike going on Substack, but I think also Oasis here with, using public transportation as like a way to promote their concert. That's the first time I've seen that. And I won't be surprised if we start seeing more bands or, groups doing that. So that could be pretty cool. And I think it's a cool way to show off the city in ways that sometimes some of those smaller cities don't get a lot of love, right? Like, obviously, like the bigger cities, New York, LA, I mean, we have songs devoted to them, right? Like, so this is kind of like a cool way to show off, smaller cities.
Yeah, that's totally cool. I'm still thinking about Nike being on Substack. I think that's fascinating, and I wonder if we'll see more major brands join some of these more niche platforms. I went to their website. It's the URL is in the -margins.com. I was thinking, like, oh, it'll show how many subscribers they have. No, they disabled it, so we don't know. They probably have at least tens of thousands of subscribers.
Yeah,
probably. But I'd be very curious about like what their acquisition strategy is, how it will play with their other channels. I'm gonna keep watching it.
Yeah, awesome,
cool. All right, friends. That's it for us. We'll have another episode later this week. Be sure to smash that subscribe button. And if you like this episode or any episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. That'd be super nice. And if you want to follow us, you can follow me at Amanda Nat on most social platforms and subscribe to my newsletter at amandanat.com.
And you can follow me at Sonu Bashez on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, and all that. But definitely follow the podcast on YouTube at Meme Team Pod and on Spotify at Meme Team Podcast. And you can also go to our website, memeteampodcast.com, to get all of the latest episodes.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.